to a special episode of Whatever the Weather. Today I'm joined by Mark Antonowicz, more affectionately known as AZ, who has just received the Arsenal's Premier League Community Captain Award for services to the local community. You may have seen the news on Arsenal.com, as well as the usual social media platforms, of Mikel Arteta and Richard Garlick presenting the award to Mark. Mark, it's an absolute pleasure to be joined by you today on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Great to be here.
Excellent. Okay, so first place to start really is how did you first get involved? How did you first get involved with the club, with the Arsenal?
It was through the employment. I think it was Introduction to Employment program, and so it was called ET.
Yeah.
And I started part-time. I was doing other work at the same time. And I was part-time for over a year before going full-time. And I was one of only 4 or 5 other community coaches at the time, but the numbers grew. And I that was 88, 89. I went full-time in 1990.
Wow, okay. So you've been involved in the club for, that's 40 years then, almost.
It's closing in, yes.
Well, from what I've read, the Arsenal in the Community Programme is its 40th anniversary this year, so it's also my 40th this year, so so good. So you started this through this Back to Work employment scheme.
Yeah.
And so what did you first do when you were involved in the club?
I just got involved in so many different activities, things I wouldn't have dreamed of. Like the bowls, which I'm involved in now.
Yes.
All those years later. Things like reading, calling bingo at local homes in Islington.
Right.
And I thought, hang on, I'm supposed to be a coach.
Yeah.
And yes, there was football, but also I got introduced to other sports like hockey, which I did for years. So there was just a variety of activities. And in those early days, we would go up to Highbury Fields round about just before rush hour and just ask people coming home from work to join in whatever activity we set up, which was in the summer we set up volleyball. And we were just calling in people off the streets to join in.
So it was genuinely community outreach. This wasn't something people had to sign up for. You were actually going out.
We were going
actively looking for people to get involved in these schemes.
Sure.
Wow, that's amazing. So in terms of coaching and mentoring, so that's something you've been, I understand that's something you've done as well. So is that with younger people, or is that sort of across all ages?
Mainly with younger people. My coaching, whatever sport, has been focused on primary school age, 7 to 11, although I have coached older, up to 12, 13, 14 on some programs.
Okay. Were you ever involved in any of the academy? Did you ever get to work with any of the younger players who have come through the ranks now, or?
We are community based. We have something now called Arsenal Plus, which is all the kids that come through our various community sessions. But Arsenal Plus are the ones who have a little bit more ability and more desire. It's a higher level. And some of them have gone through to academy. I have been involved with players who've moved on to join the club. I coached Ashley Cole when he was 8 and 9.
Wow.
At Joan of Arc School.
Yeah.
And of course he got taken very quickly.
Yeah.
Direct academy, no, but there's a longer answer to that because our remit is different. Although we want to improve everybody. You know, the academy is about the elite, but now we have a very strong link with the academy, which we didn't have so much years ago.
Okay, so there would be potentially players who are coming through. Doing Arsenal, players coming through that end up on Arsenal
Plus, who are knocking on a door or the door, depending on what happens.
So we sort of say if they start doing primary sort of level stuff with you,
Yeah.
they can then go on to
It
academy.
can
and,
happen that way.
Well, okay. So, yeah, excellent. Well, speaking of that, as I mentioned earlier on social media, the club posted a photo of you with Mikel. Some of the comments beneath were, very positive about your past with the club. A couple about your time with the soccer school. People remember you from you were doing the soccer school.
Yeah, there are people now who've who've got families who are even have grandchildren who were on the first soccer schools that I was involved in.
Well, so tell us about the soccer schools then. So when did you start doing those? Before we started recording, Mark mentioned that those stopped a few years ago.
In the form that it used to be in, but we now have regular soccer schools at the Arsenal Hub, and we do occasionally run schools at other venues like Market Road.
Okay.
So they are continuing, but they used to be without fail 1 week long at a particular venue.
Yeah.
Now things are sort of changed a little bit. The Hub, Arsenal Hub, Community Hub, has soccer schools for the younger kids, which makes sense. It's a smaller indoor venue.
Where is that based?
Right next to the Armoury.
Oh,
It's our
lovely.
community
Oh,
hub.
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's got a pitch there.
Things you wouldn't necessarily notice when you're going on match days and you're walking with the throng, with the crowd, and you're you don't necessarily notice the things around the stadium. So yeah, absolutely.
And it's our home. It's an indoor venue. It's good enough for 7-8-a-side adults. So it's perfect for a soccer school for 40 kids, aged from 6, to 10 or something like that. It does work. We go to other venues for the older kids.
Okay, so going back, so when did you first get involved in the soccer school? Was that early on in your time at the club?
Yeah. I mean, in a sort of a regular every half term, every holiday format. It was properly up and running in 1990 onwards.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
And we were based at the JVC, and the indoor pitch there was, I think, 60 metres by 40.
So we're talking about the old Highbury here.
The old Highbury. It was rebuilt. It used to be on the ground. It was rebuilt above the car park, and that venue could take at least 50, 60 kids, and it was perfect. And we had other things going on there, private bookings, Vets League on the weekend.
Vets League?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I ran that for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
As the referee, basically.
Right. That's okay. So that's an interesting discussion. So obviously you started off at teaching the soccer schools at Highbury, and how was it, the transition between being at Highbury and the Emirates? Because obviously you were involved in the club, and that was obviously a big transition for everyone involved.
Yeah, we got our own offices on Drayton Park, separate offices, after the new stadium had been built. The old one, obviously, and the old sports centre had been knocked down. So everything we did was outreach with those offices at Drayton Park, and there was an initial kind of an agreement that we would have like for like. What we had at Highbury would definitely return with the Emirates Stadium. However, does that involve a new sports centre? Or questions were asked. Well, we started to expand. We had many more sessions, the number of participants doubled, trebled, and one of the arguments was, do you need your own centre now that you've doubled and trebled your output? And our answer was, that's a heart. You can't take a heart away from us.
Of course, yes, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
Long story, 5 years later, we get the Arsenal Community Hub.
Fantastic.
And it's great. It's got everything you need, really. Classrooms, IT.
Wow. So broadly, the movement from Highbury over to the Emirates has been positive in terms of terms of community.
It took a little waiting. Some of us thought we'd never get a sports centre.
Oh wow! So
we always felt we needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, the community programme was flying and successful. But eventually it did happen.
So Mark, so the reason that you received the award was obviously for the entirety of your career working at the Arsenal. But I wanted to ask you specifically about the Bowls program. So this is amongst older adults to combat loneliness. So how long has the Bowls program been going on?
That virtually since the setting up of the Arsenal in the community.
Okay. So that's post Highbury then. So that's the Emirates.
No. This is the community department was set up in 85, 86.
Oh wow! Okay.
And Bowls was there.
Right. Okay. So it is the 40th anniversary of the Bowls being there as well.
Yep.
Excellent. It's so fascinating when I read this, because whilst I knew that Arsenal had really good community outreach, I didn't realise that Bowls was part of it.
Nor did I.
It's quite interesting that. So how does that program operate? How do people? Is it the same as you mentioned before? It's outreach. You're looking for older people to get involved in this.
Yes. Funnily enough, the outreach was kind of spurred on by the fact that we didn't have our own base. After the Emirates was built, and so we looked at several venues. It's a short mat bowls version, which means it's designed to be played in small halls, ideal for community centres.
Yeah.
So very quickly we got involved in about half a dozen. I think we're in 6-7 community centres, and we are also we have a session at the Hub. Some are one mat venues, some are two mat venues, so we can have as many as 16, 18 people at a session.
Oh wow.
Sometimes it's only 6.
Yeah.
And in the old days at Highbury, that session was exclusively in the sports hall, which was great because it was a second gen AstroTurf, which means the bowl ran smooth and flat on it. And I got involved accidentally. I was on duty downstairs, reception, and this guy came running downstairs, older guy, but he was moving quite speed, and he said, "Where's the bloody tea?" And I'm sorry. And he asked again, and I went upstairs. I sneaked into the kitchen area because the mezzanine was backs into the sports centre, so there was a mezzanine lounge section. I went into the kitchen, got a trolley, made the teas and coffees, and I've been doing bowls ever since. That's it. I was trolley dolly.
I love it. So yeah, you the chaiwala, and somehow got into bowls.
And Alan Sefton, my boss at the time, he was quite happy to hand that one over to me.
Wow. Okay. Where's the bloody tea? Excellent. Oh, I love it. Okay, great. So I tell you what. So aside from this award, can you tell us some of your proudest moments or sort of best memories of being at the club?
I think
that you're allowed to say. I don't know. This is what I mean. How
in terms of what we did at the community. In the community department, what we achieved, I think one of the best, most spectacular moments was our presentation at Sparsholt College for our residential with nearly 200 kids.
Wow.
And the Premier League trophy there.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
All these kids in brand new Arsenal kit. It just looked amazing.
Which year was this?
Oh, we're going back now. So,
well, there's only a couple with the Premier League trophy.
Yeah, 2003 or 4. Yeah. So, Invincible. And we ran residentials there, which got bigger and bigger.
Wow.
And bigger. And we had over 200 kids. Excellent. 1 year. And that was a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
Now times have changed. We don't run things like that. Because it's just a different landscape now, and I don't think any of the other Premier League clubs are doing it like that.
Yeah.
There's still grassroots going on everywhere, and soccer schools, but the residentials,
not so much.
That's in the past.
So Mark, on from that, have you ever been lucky enough to meet, some people I might consider heroes, players, managers, or obviously we've seen you meet Mikel, so...
Yes, Arsene Wenger several times, but I was coaching hockey, and he stood in the doorway of the sports hall, JVC, and I finished the session. He was there for about 10 minutes, and I just went straight over to him and apologised. And he said,
"What did you
sorry?" And I said, "Well, it's a hockey session I'm doing." And he said, No. He said, "This is important." I said, "I'm a football coach though." He goes,
Yeah.
No, I get it. He says, "But what you learn from other sports, do not apologise."
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
the first time I talked to Arsene Wenger.
Wow, brilliant.
Patrick Vieira was one of my best because he sneaked out of a press or some sort of event in the mezzanine lounge to talk to our kids in soccer school. And what he did is he had his brother with him, I believe, but what he did is he lost his entourage.
Right.
And it was involving getting into a car. I'm not quite sure the detail, but his entourage followed that car, but Vieira wasn't in it.
Right. Okay.
He was talking to us.
Oh, wow.
Talking to the kids. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Until they found him half an hour later. I wrote. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
And the other guy I always loved to have was David Seaman.
Oh,
I mean,
as you're mentioning heroes of mine from back then.
We had to stop him talking. A lot of players are shy, especially the younger ones. They don't have too much to say. It's a bit overwhelming, and they go. Seaman was total opposite.
Yeah.
You had to say to him, "Look, we need to get on with the coaching. It's all right. Come back and talk about carp fishing another time."
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Wow. Wenger, Vieira and David Seaman. So Mark, I heard about your background working with the Arsenal. It's all, have to say, absolutely brilliantly inspiring stuff. I'm sure you've had enough praise heaped upon you so far, so don't want to embarrass you too much. So it's kind of,
okay.
well, unless you want me to. But
No,
I'd say
fine.
let's. Obviously, you work for the club, but also you're a big Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
so
yes, I am.
how are you feeling about the season thus far? So I mean, the boys are away in Dubai on this warm weather camp. We're all hoping that they kind of come back a bit fitter, a bit brighter. Obviously, we've just lost Martinelli again to injury, which is pretty bad. Didn't do any movement in the transfer window.
Yeah.
But with those things in mind, how are you feeling about the season going forward? I mean, we are at least still in the Champions League, and we're still second in the Premier League. So,
But they are looking very hard to beat. That's a positive at the moment. They're beginning to look like that a lot. We are struggling up front. It's no secret. I think we've got a good chance of going far in the Champions League. I think the way our team is set up, we could surprise people with that. We'll see. In the league, we'll do well to stay second. I think we will, but it will be difficult.
it'll be tough to stay second.
Yeah,
Leaving
yeah.
aside the possibility of us. No.
No, we can't.
Titles-
We just
titles
won't.
gone, or-
There'll be the reason I'm disappointed about the transfer market, as other pundits have said, is you need backup. You need to refresh your strikers. We cannot do that, and I don't care how many good 3-1s or 4-0s we might do somewhere along the line. That same striker will be finished for the next game.
Well,
he
yes,
will need to recover.
Yeah.
And if we had backup. Now, a lot of that isn't the club's fault, it's the injuries, but I think they should have got someone. I know it's not Arsenal's policy, but everyone thinks that.
I mean, what do you think about the argument of bringing somebody in? I think the term Mikel Arteta said, he's like, I don't want to just bring in a body. I want to bring in somebody who is going to change the team, and I can see the argument for not bringing somebody in because there's been transfer windows, particularly the winter transfer windows, where we have brought players in and they've not really got on.
But we're
And
hamstrung.
so-
We're hamstrung by our recent history. So in a sense, you can't blame the owners for that. But when you are so close to taking the next step, which could put you right in the mix to win something,
Yeah.
it's painful.
It does.
It's painful.
I know.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that victory against Manchester City. You know, where you've got an array of different goal scorers. You've got two teenagers scoring goals. You know, it does look fantastic. I mean, it is fantastic, and that
Yeah.
was a day to relish.
Yeah.
But you know, my concern is, you know, it's nice thinking, oh, we can get goals from anywhere on the pitch, we can get goals from any players, but you know, as you say, you do want that killer striker, you know.
I mean, you say anybody. Look, if you got a young striker in who's had some experience, and we hope in Premier League, not top, you know, but who's happy to be a squad player. So I'd be tempted to go older, but to just have that in the background would have made a huge difference.
Do you think that's why the club was sort of looking towards something like Ollie Watkins? It's
Yeah.
the
But
older
then
end of
they knew,
things.
they kind of knew that. Who was it got sold? Was it Duran?
Yes, the player
Yeah, I think
the
they
player
knew
that
that was
Villa
imminent.
the player that Villa bought from I forget which team in the MLS, but they bought him from a team in the MLS for 12 million and have sold him on to
No-brainer.
buy for crazy money, you know. So yeah, I mean, obviously the other thing is you know, the other clubs know we're desperate.
Yeah,
So I mean, who is going to sell?
And they will mess.
It's,
they will mess with you, especially in the January window.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, next game. Well, actually, you know what? The next game that could affect us, and I know that we shouldn't really think so. I think we made the mistake of this last season, is paying too much attention to the clubs around us and sort of hoping they do us a favour. And I think that was a big mistake in the last season, and arguably in the season before that. You know, Liverpool play Everton on Wednesday, so listener, that's tomorrow in this world. But
Yes.
we're I don't know. Could Everton get anything out of that game? I mean, because ostensibly we've been looking at Liverpool being 6 points ahead of us, thereabouts,
And a game in hand.
and a game in it. So basically, everyone's looking at that and saying, "Well, it's Everton, so they're 9 points ahead, really, because that game's a foregone conclusion." So
Everton are looking livelier going forward.
the David Moyes bounce.
They've got to bounce.
Yeah.
They do look like they create more chances. Liverpool, that's a funny one because Liverpool have been excellent, but every now and again you see a vulnerability at the back. Somehow, maybe that continues. They played made 10 changes at the weekend, but they lost.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they lost,
means
something.
Even
when you go into another game.
adding to the fact that it's Plymouth as well is it's quite funny.
So-
Plymouth, who Plymouth have been drawn in the next round.
Yeah, City.
Man City.
Yeah.
So, come on, giant
That's
killers.
karma for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't see Liverpool losing that game.
Yeah.
Don't see them losing. I
Yeah.
see Everton putting in a good
But-
performance, but no.
But no.
No.
Well, yeah. So our next game is against Leicester. So
Hopefully.
I think we can, you know, on paper, that's one you want to come away with a result from.
Yeah, sure.
So we're playing Leicester on Saturday. Everyone loves a 12:30 kickoff. Not.
I didn't realise.
I can't stand them. 12:30 kickoff away to Leicester. So if you're going up to that game, props to you, because that's it's
won't
going to
be.
be an early. That's going to be an early journey in the morning.
Yeah, I'll just pretend I'm working. I'm doing mini league.
Yeah. Oh, are you? Yeah. fair
Otherwise,
enough.
I'd be there.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think we should be able to get something out of that game. I mean, Leicester are an interesting team. They sort of come up and come down.
It was a very open game against Man U, even when they were playing well. If they play like that again, we take them apart. We should do.
Well, I mean, Manchester United is actually quite an interesting conversation in itself.
itself.
But yeah, it has been quite funny watching them. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, somebody who grew up with sort of got into football in the sort of mid to late 90s.
Oh, right.
So
Yes.
the rivalry was very much between us and Manchester United.
Yep.
So almost to the point that the Tottenham thing, whilst watching Tottenham capitulate in the way that they have, is amusing. It's kind of gone past the point for me of being funny at this point. It's shooting fish in a barrel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas with Man United, because they're, you know, they have the history, they have this prestige. Watching them, you know, sort of throwing games away has been quite funny.
I think it highlights how important it is to have a well-run club with principles, real principles, and Arsenal, more by and large, have always had that. I reckon for at least half the time that I've been at that club, I would consider it the best run club in Europe.
What, in Europe?
Right? Yeah. On all levels, the professionalism, the whole lot.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a special place to be at, to work at.
Oh man. Well, I was going to say it must be absolutely amazing to work there. I can't imagine. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
As I say, your story is incredibly inspiring, and I hope you carry on doing what you do, and
Yeah,
you know, maybe you'll get a award in another 40 years.
No, I don't want any more. I've told the younger lads, because I have a great team at Arsenal community, and there's some young, hungry people there, and I've told them, don't come up to me and slap me on the back and say, how's it going, and you know, oh, legend or all of that. If my standards start to slip, you let me know.
Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.